Happy holidays, everybody. This is Colombian Love 41, and I'm doing another 6-scale unboxing for Hot Toys Thor from Marvel's Avengers Infinity War. This figure has been provided by Sideshow Collectibles for this review, and it's my first Infinity War figure, so I'm kind of excited to get into it. Just a few details about him. He's 12.59 inches tall. He comes with 4 pairs of interchangeable hands, the interchangeable arms with both armor and without, a Stormbreaker, 2 magnetic eye patches for the different looks that he uses in the movie, and lightning effects that are translucent, both with a light up eye effect, but I'll get into that in a little bit. So let's go ahead and check out this figure. So this is the box. It has Thor on the front doing his lightning effect thing, and what they did was they took an image and sort of made a painting look from that to make the front, and then superimposed the Avengers A into that. And with this down here with the Avengers logo and everything, this is a cutout. And then they have the Hot Toys, the movie masterpiece information over there. Designation for this one is MMS 474. Some people pay attention to that like I do, the way I have my boxes stacked up. I have it by numbers so that I know which box is which if I need to get to it for some reason. The side has some of that space background that was on the front that completely wraps around, and it's all the way around this slip cover. And then once you get a little lower, you have the Infinity Gauntlet, and then Thor 6-scale collectible MMS 474, and then all the way at the bottom you have this golden Avengers A. And you can see here, this is obviously where his arm wraps around from the front. The back pretty much just has the normal Hot Toys information, like the warnings and the UPC and some other product information. The warning in a couple different languages. And then, like I said, the UPC and Marvel information. And then on the back cutout, you have the little Thor logo that they've kind of been using since, I believe, the first Avengers movie. So I'm kind of curious what like some of the other Infinity War figures look like. You know, I should be getting a Captain America real soon here, so I'm interested to see how they did his box. So once you slide that off, what you have now is the figure you can see in the window here, lightning effects and the various accessories, and then obviously the Infinity War cutout that you could see with the slipcover on it. That Thor emblem is on the side, and then on the back a large Avengers A, and then the cast and crew, like the various people that worked on it, producers, some costume designers, artists, things like that, head painters, sculpt designers, things like that. So, you know, good stuff you expect once you crack into a Hot Toys box. Once you pull out the inside, that's when you can get a little bit better look of everything that's included, as well as the taped on instructions, the stand, everything's in there, but we'll get into that in a second. So yeah, let's check this figure out. There's a separate warning piece. It's just here telling you to tilt the head forward when you're turning it because of the way his collar's high on both the caped and uncaped piece that's on him, so you don't rub his neck against the collar and possibly do a little paint transfer. The other thing, it only shows the unarmored arms to do this, but I'm assuming you should just do it with both the armored and unarmored arms. It tells you to raise the arms to like a 90-degree angle and then turn the arm. Don't just turn them while they're at his side, because it looks like you could either damage the actual material that the arms are made of, because they're made out of this like softer rubber latex material. I'm not exactly sure what it's made out of, but if you were to twist it too hard, you could possibly break it or pop some of the under skeleton through the skin, and you do that, you damage the figure, and there's no going back from that. So make sure to check out this caution paper. So here we have the base stand along with the flexible arm. which is obviously here, and then the clamp that goes around his waist, or however you want to use it to get a good pose out of him. The flexible arm, it's very similar to what you've seen previously, but it looks like the base here is a little bit heftier, most likely to be seated a little better, so you don't have as many balance problems as you might have seen previously. Now, the base stand itself, this is really nice. I like the shape of it. I dig the coloring. Thor is simply printed on the front here, and then you have some spot glossing of the Avengers Infinity War title here, so you can kind of see that when moving in the light. And the Avengers A symbol sort of has some reflective glossiness to it as well. Basically what that's from is you have this sort of grip matte finish that's over the entire base, and then they cut out the A emblem to sort of give it a shinier effect when it's in the light. So I dig it. It's really nice. Now, I wish they did include just a normal base stand piece so that you could stick them in like a museum pose or something like that. So you have to use the flex arm piece with this because I tried to use the stand component from the Thor Ragnarok stand, and that ended up being wider than this hole allows, so you can't just swap it out with other stands, which it's not a terrible thing, but if you're looking to do like a simple museum pose, you'll probably have to run this further down the flex stand and have a portion of it sticking up above his head. So it's all on what you like. If you don't like that, I'm sure you could figure something else out to make it work the way you want it to. So here we have the assortment of arms and hands. You get the various posing hands here with the gripping hands, the half grip hands, the open hands for when you're doing sort of a dynamic pose and he's drawing back his weapon. These are obviously the armorless ones and the armored versions. Now, you do get an extra set of wrist pegs that come with these, but they didn't include an extra set of black ones, which I was a little surprised with, because if something happens and say this is your first figure, then you have to figure out a way to get some more. I maybe would have included that, but that's, neither here nor there. But taking a look at the armorless arms, they do bend like any other arms. They're seamless, so they're made out of this sort of rubbery material meant to look like skin, and it is a little squishy, for lack of a better word. And these bracers can go on either arm. They're meant to hide the wrist peg, so as you can see, you can't really see it there. But I wouldn't recommend leaving these in a bent position for too long. I don't know how they've perfected the material from the past, but I know if you're going to leave a flexible rubber material in a position for quite some time, you might stretch it out or possibly damage it. So with the armored ones, with the bend, if you can hear it here, I'll actually bring it next to the microphone. That's actually the ratcheting sound that it makes. And this was for when you had his hammer. His hammer used to be made of metal. The Stormbreaker is actually plastic, so it's much lighter than the hammer ever was. So you get the ratcheting effect so that his arm will stay in one place, but obviously it's not as necessary as it used to be. But I like the design. I like that you're getting both versions, because obviously they're not making two different figures from the movie. You're getting his look from the very beginning of the movie up until he gets the Stormbreaker and gets the armor, and when he Thors out and becomes God of Thunder. But yeah, I'm very happy that they included both sets, because it lets you get a lot of different poses and looks out of the figure. These are the translucent lightning effects that you get with him on his chest plate, and I'll get into it and actually show you swapping it out. But with the chest plate, the little discs swap out with these, and show sort of an electricity look coming off of the sides of him. And then you get two of these other wraparound lightning effects that go around his wrists and the bracers. So when he's drawing his power or using his abilities, you really get a good look at it. And these do light up with his chest piece. And that's why he has the batteries, because he has the lights in his chest that light these up. But they're nice. They're made out of the same translucent plastic material that you've seen before with, say, Electro, Emperor Palpatine, or Black Widow, and obviously previous Thors. It's that material that really captures light really well, and just with the lights that I'm using in this light box, you can kind of see how you're getting a lot of various hues of blue all throughout. Now, getting into the chest armor piece, you do have two different pieces. One is attached to his cape, and the other one is just a plain piece, is pretty much what he wears throughout the movie up until he gets Stormbreaker, and then he gets the cape and the armored arms and everything. But as far as replacing them, you pull off the head sculpt, and then if you can see them, there are actually two pegs on both sides of his chest that hold on this piece, as well as two magnets. And you just pull them up. Pretty simple. Get the other piece, and then pop those into the peg holes. Put the head sculpt back on. That's it. Stays in there well, and it's flush. And the cape that's included is similar to what you've seen in the past with Thor's capes. There's no posing wire in it or anything like that. It's just sort of pleated and goes down to his feet. So it's a pretty long cape, but it's a nice color red, and the material feels really good. And when you have these pieces off, right underneath here is actually where the battery is for the lightning effects in his chest. And then another magnetic piece in the chest plate are these small pieces where his pecs are. You can see that one's shorter than the other, and they literally pop off and on, and they're held on with magnets, so you don't have to worry about them falling off. And you could see the differences. I believe this is for the unarmored arm version. They're a little bit higher and tighter, and then this is for the armored version. I like the shorter one a little bit better, but to each their own. I mean, honestly, it's very subtle. And then these are the pegs. So really just a quick rundown on articulation. You're not going to get a whole lot out of this figure from the waist down, just because of how the chest piece comes down. It comes down a little low, so when you try to move the legs forward into, say, like a 90-degree angle, it doesn't happen because of the material and the bottom of the chest piece. It's just not going to bend that way. You do get a lot of good articulation up in the shoulders as well as down in the arms here at the elbows, and that goes for either armor style that you go with. And you do get a lot of good articulation from the knee down and down in the ankles, so you're going to get some good bends there. And in the boots, because the shin piece is a separate piece, when you go to move the ankle, it moves independently from the rest of the boot, so you can pretty much finagle the boot in most poses that you're trying to get out of this. And then at the knees, he does bend very well, further than 90 degrees, but you are going to see that you're going to stress the material around the knee a little bit. You might not want to do that for too long so you don't damage the figure. When you try to move the legs forward, you're actually going to find that because of how low the armor piece goes here, he can't say sit down and have his legs go at like a 90-degree angle in the hips. It's just the way he's designed. You can't do that. Or if you can, I'm not going to push it that hard and possibly damage the figure. But it doesn't seem like it can, just because of the way everything is. He has a little bit of movement forward, but it's very limited. I don't know about you, but I wouldn't want to mess up the figure at all. So taking a look at the head sculpt here, this is one of the best head sculpts next to the Gladiator Thor, which is essentially the same one they used, just with some slight differences to work with this version of the character. A couple of things that are different, obviously, his head doesn't have the removable hair because you're not going to be replacing it with like a helmet at all. He does have this small scar on his eye. Kind of focus in. You should be able to see it. You can see it up his face and up the top of the eye. So that's something the other figure doesn't have. And it does look like his hair is a little bit darker, but they did also include some small like golden highlights sort of. They added that just to capture some of the light and make his hair look like more individual pieces rather than just a lump sitting on top of his head. So just taking a look at the head sculpt, you can see they included the nicks or scars. I'm not exactly sure what they are on his head, to be honest with you, but very similar, if not the same exact haircut from the Ragnarok version. Some of the inner workings that they included are the luminous eyes. Now, they only light up from a special kind of torch. I don't know if it's like a UV torch or something like that, but that's something that Hot Toys didn't include, and it doesn't really give you much direction as to what this torch actually is. I don't know if it's like a UV torch or something like that, but that's something that Hot Toys didn't include, and it doesn't really give you much direction as to what this torch actually is. Inside his actual head sculpt is a magnet, and that's used for the 2 different eye patches that you get. So you just kind of lay it over his eye and falls right into place. And you can see this one's a little more of a glossy look with some small detailing throughout. A little bigger of an eye patch than the other one that I'm just about to show you. And just to take it off, you just pull it off his eye. And then when putting the other one on, same idea. It just kind of falls right into place. This one has a little more of a matte finish and some gold accents. So this is the Asgardian axe Stormbreaker, based on the weapon from the comic books. However, it's a little different from the movie, obviously, because the handle here is made out of Groot's arm, and then you have the metal head. Now, it's completely made out of plastic, which is a little different than what you've seen previously with Thor, with his hammer being metal on the Hot Toys figures. But the finish that's up here on the head and the blade and everything, it does look metal, so it has a very nice look. Very similar to what they did with the Hela figure as she's holding it, and you get that sort of mid look of her breaking it to pieces. So you do have a lot of like really nice little detailing here. You have some runes here as well as small designs. The runes are the same on both sides, and actually the back of the axe does look like his hammer, so he could use either side to really cause some chaos. And they have some really nice detailing on the handle here, with it being wrapped and whatnot, just for gripping purposes. And then you have the broken piece. Let me zoom. Let me fix the focus on this a little better. There we go. So you get to see sort of like Groot's rings, like a tree, and then a small leaf on the side. So yeah, they really threw some detailing on this, just so you didn't feel like you were getting some like cheap plastic axe. It has a really nice finish and a really good look to it. Honestly, I don't really miss that it's metal or not, because if it was metal, it would have a much different center of gravity and probably wouldn't sit in his arms as well when you're doing some posing. But I do like what they did here, so I'm happy. So I really dig this figure. Hot Toys did a really good job of making sure to include everything that you would need to duplicate the look of the character on screen. Starting from the top, the head sculpt is definitely in the likeness of Chris Hemsworth. I think it is probably the best head sculpt, even putting it next to the Gladiator Thor version. I think this one has the slight edge. Including the eye patches meant that they could keep down the costs of having multiple head sculpt. The eye patches look good when they're on the head sculpt. They're pretty flush, and look how Asgardians wear their eye patches. The collar and the cape, how they magnetically go on and look flush to the armor. Both styles of arms, both the bare arms and the armored version, do have great articulation and bend properly the way you would want them to bend. Getting them in and out of the shoulder socket is a little bit difficult, but that also means that they're going to stay in the joints fairly well. So that's actually a plus. The chest plate itself is really nice. I do like that you can pop out the lightning effects as well as the circular discs. And speaking of the lightning effects, they look great, both illuminated or just on the chest piece. One downside is the articulation in the hips, but it's not too bad as far as like if you're doing some sort of standing pose. It just doesn't get good articulation in a sitting position or some kind of 90-degree angle. It's just something worth mentioning so that collectors know that that is something to look for. And then lastly, Stormbreaker. Stormbreaker looks great. The handle is nice and detailed. You have that little leaf on there, which is a cool little touch. The actual head of the axe, it has some nice little etching and some runes on it, and it just looks like there was a lot of care into its design, and I highly recommend picking up this figure, whether you have Thor or not. So if you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe. I'd appreciate it. I do a lot of other collectible reviews and unboxings on the channel, so keep an eye out for that. There will be a written version of this review on highdefninja.com, and this figure is available on Sideshow right now for $267 US, and that's before shipping and taxes, so you can go ahead and order them. If you have any questions or comments, you can leave them here or under the written review or on social media. I'm at ColombianLove41 if you just even want to talk collectibles in general. So again, I hope you enjoyed the video. Happy holidays, and I'll catch you next time.